Now we've come to one of my favorite parts of the job, and that's getting paid. Like anything in construction, it's not as simple as just putting together an invoice. Like we said, there's lots of things going on in construction, and therefore the payment request or the payment application has to reflect all those things. Well, first off, the payment application has to include all the basic project information, right? The project name, the title, date, and so on. Those things are obvious. But then it may also include what's called a schedule of values. Now, the schedule of values is something that's determined up front at the beginning of a project and then carried forward throughout the entire project. And it is just a way to break the project down into component parts where everybody can evaluate how much is complete of those component parts for the purposes of a pay request. So let's look at what a schedule of values might look like for this apartment complex, Pope Field. The first thing I did was look into RS Means Square Foot Cost Book to see if they have an apartment complex similar to what we're building. Because what it would provide for me is a breakdown of the costs into various components. And they assign how much of the project is in each of those components. Well, that's a great place to start. So I can see here that the substructure makes up a certain percentage of the job. The shell makes up a certain percentage of the job, and so on. You should end up with a total of 100% in these various components. Then when I take the total amount that I bid for the job, say it was $14 million, I can break that $14 million up into these various components. When I do that, I can see that the substructure is worth $560,000, or 4% of the $14 million. When I'm 100% complete with the substructure, I'll be paid $560,000. But what if I'm 50% complete? Well, then it's going to be $280,000. What if I'm only 25%? Well, then it's $140,000. You see, so all I have to do now is use my schedule of values, put a percent complete for those various elements, and that will determine the amount of my payment application. If we were to use consensus docs to develop our payment application, we would have one sheet for each scheduled value, and then we would sum the sheets for the overall payment app. So let's just look at one sheet for one scheduled value. We're going to look at 2.1, the floor and the roof. The total value of the floor and the roof is $2,030,000. Now let's say that on previous payment applications I billed up to $800,000. Well, $2,030,000 minus the amount that I billed before, $800,000, and let's say I'm 100% complete with that part of the project. So at 100% complete, I should be able to bill the full $2,030,000. But I've already billed $800,000, so all I have remaining to bill is $1,230,000, because the $1,230,000 plus the $800,000 equals the $2,030,000. But then I have another thing that I have to take from all that, and that is the retainage. Remember, retainage typically at 10% through the course of the project, can be lesser towards the end, but let's say we're in the middle of the project, I just completed 100% of this particular scheduled item, so I'm going to take out full retainage of 10%. Well, if this pay app is going to include $1,230,000, I calculate 10% of that value, and I get $123,000 for retainage. So you should be able to take a form like this and, given any missing number, calculate what that number is. But a word of caution, don't use the percent complete to calculate any number, because the percentages and the way the rounding works would throw you off. You should use the other numbers first. One of the things associated with payment applications are liens and waivers. First, you need to understand what a lien is. A lien is a legal process by which a contractor or subcontractor or vendor can keep a property from entering a transaction. So let's say an owner built a building, didn't pay their contractor, the contractor puts a lien on the building. Well, that's fine, but that owner cannot sell that building until that lien is satisfied. So what the owner wants whenever a payment application is turned in is a lien waiver. A lien waiver says that the contractor waives their ability to lien the property for the work that is being paid for at this time. And this is one of these flow-through clauses. The contractor must obtain a lien waiver from all their vendors and subcontractors for that same payout. The lien waiver is just a way of documenting that the vendors and the subcontractors and the contractors were paid for the work specified in the payment application.